What is a race record, and how did segregation turn Black music into huge business? Well, today we're going to talk about it. And if you like stories like this, you can find more stories like this at onemichistory.com. Also, if you like audio only, you can find those stories at One Mic too. But without further ado, let's get started. The birth of the recording industry started in the late 19th century, and at the time, it was a luxury initially reserved for only the very wealthy. The hefty price tag of phonographs prevented most Americans, especially African Americans, from accessing this innovation. Notably, George W. Johnson broke ground as the first Black artist to record commercially in 1890. As the 20th century dawned, the prices of phonographs decreased, opening these devices to a wider demographic. A significant milestone came in 1901 when a successful duo of Burt and George Walker became the first African-American artists to secure a recording contract with Victor Talking Machine Company. However, racial segregation at the time meant that shopping practices and the variety of music available drastically differed from white to African-American consumers. Despite the broader access, the mainstream music industry predominantly catered to urban, middle-class, white audiences. Even though the industry started to recognize Black talent, it often stifled their growth by offering single record deals with precarious long-term prospects. In the 1920s, a term describing the burgeoning recognition of African-American music began. It was called race music or race records. This term first appeared in an Okeh advertisement in the Black newspaper, the Chicago Defender, in 1922. Okeh Records was a label founded in 1918 by Otto K.E. Heidemann. Prior to 1940, representation of Black artists in the media, particularly on radio, was sparse. Live performances were mainly confined to segregated venues, and race records were the primary medium for Black music. These records were used to inspire countless artists and influence other genres such as rock and country music. In the early 20s, there was a shift in the music industry dynamic, with major labels like Victor and Columbia experiencing steep declines in sales, partially due to the fallout from the 1919 lawsuit that ended their control over the phonograph recording patents and simultaneously saw a rise in commercial radio. This period of upheaval coincided with new labels like Okeh, Paramount, and Jeanette, which was pivotal in developing the race record genre, targeting previously untapped market in African Americans. This genesis of race records can be traced back to the commercial success of Mamie Smith's Crazy Blues in 1920, which sold over 100,000 copies in less than a year, signifying the commercial viability of Black music. This spurred the establishment of labels that were predominantly white-owned, but produced records by African-American artists. The Chicago Defender and other African-American publications played a crucial role in promoting these records, which, despite using the term race records and being marketed in a segregated manner, found a significant audience among white listeners. Amidst this burgeoning industry, there were efforts to establish Black-owned record companies. Notably, there was Black Swan Records, founded by Harry Pace and Fletcher Henderson in 1921. This was the first African-American recorder company, but it struggled financially and was eventually sold to Paramount in 1924. Following suit was J. Mayo Williams and Black Patty in 1927, and it only lasted a year due to financial constraints. These companies, along with others like them, like Sunshine and Merit, confronted numerous obstacles, including systemic racism, segregation, limited access to necessary capital, technology, and distribution networks. Despite the odds, the legacy of these African-American musicians and entrepreneurs laid the groundwork for future generations in the music industry. The 1930s brought a significant change to the music industry, particularly in the realm of race records. At the dawn of the decade, the industry was recovering from a major blow dealt by the Great Depression. Record sales, which had hit an impressive high of 100 million in 1927, dramatically plunged to a low of just 6 million by 1933. forcing record companies to lower their prices drastically. The average cost of a record went from 75 cents in 1920 and plunged to just 35 cents by the 1930s. As a result, the production of new songs and fresh race records was remarkably reduced during this period. However, this period witnessed a rejuvenated demand for live music and the rise of the jukebox, providing a fresh avenue for record sales, thereby offering an avenue to the industry plagued by economic hardships. Noticeably, this era saw the expansion and evolution of musical genres such as the popularity of swing and the emergence of big band jazz. Bands like the Fletcher Henderson Band and Louis Armstrong and Coleman Hawkins epitomized this movement. However, despite these advancements and the richer, more inclusive tapestry of music that was emerging, exploitation of Black artists remained a pervasive issue. Many Black artists who were pioneers of new sounds such as blues, jazz, and gospel faced significant exploitation. They worked for minimal recognition and pay, and these contracts for Black artists were heavily skewed in favor of the industry, often excluding these artists from royalties that their white counterparts enjoyed, thus making the race inequalities in the music scene even worse. The exploitation extended beyond financial disparities. Many Black artists' contributions were recorded without contracts, leaving them uncredited and unpaid, and this tapped into a cycle of anonymity with no prospects of leveraging their talent into a sustainable career. Even more distressing, foundational artists like Bessie Smith faced severe financial predicaments despite garnering substantial revenue for record companies due to contractual exploitation and the lack of a legal recourse. By the 1940s, race records were in a decline. They're influenced by several factors, including the start of World War II, which led to a reduced production and consumption of recording music. Contributing to this was the downward trend of the shellac ration in 1942, which was vital in the production of recording disc and recording band that was announced by the American Federation of Music. Post-war, the production resumed with vigor, but the focus had shifted towards mainstream sales, leaving race categories in neglect. The rise of small labels like Chess, King, and VJ in the Midwest and South during this period offered a resurgence emphasizing Black music without the segregated race label. This period cultivated a rich diversity within the genre, blossoming into a style collectively known as rhythm and blues. Although this music remained targeted and consumed mostly by African Americans, it signaled the beginning of a slow integration of the music industry and highlighted them moving away from a previously segregated status within music. The legacy of race music is a complex tapestry woven into the struggles of African American artists throughout the early 20th century. While these records were born out of a segregated America and initially marketed under the banner of a highlighted racial division, their impact reverberates far beyond these origins. Race records played a crucial role in the preservation and evolution of Black music, serving as both a vehicle for cultural expression and a mirror of the societal changes that were happening at the time. Despite facing systemic exploitation and discrimination, Black artists through these records contributed immeasurably to the foundation of modern music genres such as jazz, blues, rock and roll, and hip hop. Their undeniable talent and resilience not only altered the landscape of American music, but paved way for future generations of musicians across all racial and cultural lines. Thank you. This has been One Mic Black History. I am your host, Country Boy, and this has been the story of race records. If you like stories like this, you can find more stories like this at onemichistory.com. Also, if you like audio read only, you can find that at my channel, One Mic 2. I'd like to thank all my Patreon subscribers. I love you all, and without you, none of this could be possible. Peace.